let's talk about the BRICS currency that's about to be unveiled next month. These countries, it's a group of countries that are tired of America's shit. So, for people who don't know, the American dollar, people, the world trades oil in the American dollar, okay? And it's that makes it the world reserve currency. Well, this BRICS currency is backed by gold. Our currency is backed by nothing. It used to be backed by gold, but it's not backed by. It's backed by basically our military, economic power, stuff like that. But we're basically a paper dragon, and other countries are realizing this. So they're making BRICS currency has a good chance to dethrone the American dollar for the world reserve currency, and the American dollar won't go away, and it might not hyperinflate right away, but it's gonna lose a lot of value. And I think that America will probably just try to go to war with all these countries. See, a lot of these countries are getting tired of us sanctioning them. They're tired of us butting into their business. You know, we're kind of a bully. We're kind of the bad guy. Like, people think that America, oh, we're the good guys. We're trying to help everyone out. We're getting into everybody else's skirmishes. We start skirmishes. We went into Iraq for no reason. Going to all these Middle East countries for no reason. Just to make these people, these elites rich, because they invest in weapons of war. So when we go to war, it boosts those companies' stocks. And then like these companies that rebuild the cities that we destroyed, they invest in them, so they get government contracts and whatever, and they get a boost also in their stock. So these people are just manipulating, and they're tired. These countries are tired of America's shit. It's kind of like, this is kind of like a rough analogy because it's so much more complex, the financial system. But imagine you're playing Monopoly with a group of friends, like 8 people or something, and then you have one person that's the banker, and every single time you pass go, you get $200, but every single time they pass go, they give themselves $2,000. And they're like America. That's what America is kind of doing, like inflating the currency, and like just giving themselves unfair advantage over the other players. So you and your buddies decide to bring your own currency, and you start trading with each other with that currency in the game. What happens to that other currency? The banker who's a banker who's representing America, who gives himself $2,000 every single time he passes go. Well, obviously, that the monopoly currency that you've been trading in initially will be completely devalued, and there will be no more trust in that. The players will trust the currency that you've adopted, like you've put into the game, more than what he's put in there because he's been cheating. That's kind of like what America's been doing. Kind of. We've been cheating. You know, people, other countries invest. Maybe they give us money or they buy some of our bonds or whatever. And then we go ahead and devalue the currency. So we just devalued the bond. And they're getting tired of it. They're getting tired of America's shit. And this means quality of life here will go down. And it's not going to be a complete collapse. It could be. But I don't think it's going to be a complete collapse of America. But this is going to affect this is going to affect our country big time. And this is why you want to be self-reliant. This is why you don't want to give up your guns. This is why we want to make our own stuff and be independent as possible. Because if everyone else is making our stuff and we're not really contributing to the rest of the world, we're just basically consuming and we're not producing anything, which we do produce some stuff. I mean, we produce a lot of food here. But if we have to rely on other countries to produce for us because we're not producing it ourselves, that makes us very vulnerable. We have made ourselves very vulnerable. This is why I'm not a big fan of globalism. We should be here making America strong. We should be taking care. We should have, if we're the greatest superpower in the whole world, our city should not be dilapidated. We shouldn't have rapid crime. We should be strong. We shouldn't be pushing, and that's another thing. Us trying to push our culture onto other people, like Afghanistan, trying to push our LGBT stuff on them. And other countries see this and they're tired of it. A lot of the world doesn't agree with that way of living. Some of them, but it's one thing. It's one thing to, try to be progressive and accept things are changing and accept people's ideas. And just, accept that they want to live the way they want to live, as long as they're not hurting anybody else or kids especially. But when you try to push it on people, that's a problem. Then there becomes a backlash. So the whole world is just tired of America's shit, and that's not just the world. The rest of half of the country is tired of America's shit. I'm tired of America's shit. I don't like slavery. I think that we should be able to make a better system, that we should be able to evolve. We should be able to capitalism does work. It does. If you have a bunch of small businesses that are competing with each other, it creates massive innovation. It creates on the point competitiveness for a person's dollar. But what happens is, when you start having these monopolies, which our country is supposed to be not allowing, but we are, when you have these massive corporations become bigger and bigger and bigger, it basically turns into communism. It's the same thing. It's just a different path. It's the same thing. Whether it's unregulated capitalism or straight communism. It's just a centralized power. And I think there should be a limit to how much power corporations have. There should be a limit to how much they can expand. But we don't have that. So people are suffering, and a lot of people at my level have been suffering for a long time. We have a giant welfare system that keeps expanding, and that's going to be unsustainable. And that's going to be very interesting to see what happens. They are predicting that by 2030, 2 or 3 or 4, Social Security it'll run out. And here's another thing too. So like, you know how they're saying like 401ks really good, and I've heard different things, and it does have some benefits, but I have a problem with parking a mass amount of money in one place. I mean, I don't have access to like a ton of money, like hundreds of thousands of dollars. But if I did, and I had like hundreds of thousands of dollars in my name, I wouldn't want just in a 401k. I mean, I might have some in there, but how fast our currency is being devalued by our government, and possibly BRICS really devaluing our currency. When these countries who have been investing in us start just trying to throw that money back to America, is going to really inflate our currency. We're going to have a lot of money come back here, and it's going to devalue our dollar so much. But it's like, you know, cash is king, but it doesn't, you know, it doesn't mean that the American dollar cash will stay king. When you got like something like BlackRock, a really influential monopoly, who are invested into everything, and they're a major problem with pushing culture crap onto everybody else. And I'm not a big fan of BlackRock at all. They're a major problem. They have trillions of dollars. I think they have like 10 trillion or 22 trillion or something like that. And nobody knows who the investors are. We know the CEO is, we don't know who the people are he's running the company for. Obviously, it's the bankers. It's the rich bankers. So he's talking about Bitcoin. And you look at a place like, was it El Salvador? How a year before they backed their currency with Bitcoin, it was a shithole. Murder rate was really high. And then a year later, and it's not just the Bitcoin, it's the policy changes that I think they had a new president or something like that. Like they cut their murder rate big time. They arrested a ton of people, got them off the streets. It's way more of a sustainable society, and I'm kind of like, why doesn't other countries that are poor like that do that? in South America or Central America. Why don't they go to Bitcoin? Maybe they're scared. Maybe they're scared of America's influence over them. And maybe America kind of like has some agreements with them and holds them hostage. Could be like some contracts we don't know about, or you know, America has a lot of influence when it comes to military power and security, which is a huge thing because you know, the trade lines, the shipping lanes, they would get ransacked by pirates and stuff like that. But America is all about trying to provide security. So security is huge because there's bad people that try to take stuff that's not theirs, which like we're doing. Just not like in everybody's face, but it's being done. And it's like, yeah, man, we're just tired of the way things are going. We're tired of these elites telling us what to do, how to live. But it makes me wonder, is Bitcoin gonna blow up? You know, that's the big reason why I invested. Because of BlackRock, you know, trying to get an ETF, and that made it over $30,000. But it makes me wonder, like, you know, because when I got into Bitcoin, I kept on hearing all these YouTubers talk about, oh, like, own 0.28% of a Bitcoin and you're gonna be a millionaire one day. Which I possibly can be, but what is that in American dollars? I'll be a millionaire. I mean, I could be a millionaire in, what is it, not Trinidad, but I keep forgetting that one country. In the Venezuela money, I could be a millionaire. So it's like, it's just like, I don't know with the Bitcoin, and I got into that just it's just an extra layer of security, you know, because, like, you know, silver and gold, I got that physical silver and gold, and right now I'm consolidating. I'm taking my cash, not all of it, but I used to have like a big bulk of cash in my bank account. And I did that because if I lost my job or if I was moving, you know, I was always planning on moving, so I wanted to have a bunch of cash to be able to pay my bills for a transition to my next life. So I've transitioned, and paying a lot of my debt off with. So, like, what could possibly happen is with the devalue of our dollar, that also devalues our debt as well. So that's what I kind of looked at, like having cash and having debt at the same time. They both got devalued at the same time with this inflation that we've been going through. this big inflation. But now I'm trying to, it's better if I get my debt down and because of the Fed raising interest rates and stuff like that. I went into to a banker, and they're trying to tell me about, they had like a mortgage person that I could tell. I'm like, I'm not gonna buy a house right now. Are you kidding me? Oh, blah 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 blah. And I'm like, dude, interest rates are high as hell. Like, you think I'm an idiot? Or like, a lot of people don't know, but like, they're just, a lot of people are just ignorant. It's like, I think the worst time to buy a house is right now. High interest rates. We're in a bubble. But I do think that, like, let's just say like Airbnb or stuff like that. You know, these could be homes for people. So I think they're gonna have to, we might have more homes that come into the market, but the problem is too is we're not building homes, and then we're bringing more people in here too. It's so weird. I know some people out there, like there's people out there who are on welfare, right? And then if you have somebody living in your house that you don't tell the government, and they're like they have like income coming into your household, you'll lose your welfare. Well, I think that our government's going to start cracking down. And in Chicago they made it illegal immigrants a protected class. Okay, how are they protected class if they're not even American citizens? That's what's so weird. But okay, see, that's the type of like weird things that these progressives are doing, that are destroying the country. So I think that people who are on welfare are going to get cracked down by the government. They're really going to be looking into, because they're going to try to get people off of welfare, if they're smart. Because welfare shouldn't be a lifetime thing, unless like you're disabled. You know, like people who are disabled should be taken care of. Kids, obviously, with like foster care and things like that, or like elderly. But there is a lot of manipulation and abuse of our system, and there's a lot of waste. You know, people here's the thing, what people like to do is they like to take the EBT card, and let's just say like they have $100 on the EBT card, and I give them $50 to use their EBT card, and I use a whole $100. Like, they sell it 50 cents on the dollar for their food stamps. Like, there's a lot of manipulation in the system. And then they go buy drugs or whatever they're gonna buy with it, alcohol, who knows. But there's loopholes that people abuse, and I think they're gonna crack down on that at some point. I'm surprised they haven't cracked down on it, but they're gonna have to do something, because it's either gonna be that, or they're gonna have to stop giving out welfare. Could you imagine if they just stopped giving out welfare altogether? What would happen? Which might happen at some point. Not right now, but in a couple of years, it could possibly happen. Because there's no more money to give out. You know, that's what happens with socialism. It works fine at first, but when you run out of somebody else's money, or they can't sustain their own business, when they end up going bankrupt. Then you have less supply coming into the system. So, less supply of money. Eventually, you run out of money. And America's being put backed into a corner by BRICS, by the other countries. And we have no one to blame but ourselves. People keep voting in these politicians who don't have any interest for the common people. They lie. They don't do anything for us. They make money for themselves. And the chickens are coming home to roost. And you know what? This is why I say you need to be able to adapt to whatever's coming. If you can't adapt, you're going to be in big trouble. So, you used to have air conditioning, well, you might not be able to afford that no more because food's more important. That's it.